So I am very lucky to have here David in Kentucky, who has very kindly invited us to take a look inside his hangar. And David, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about you, but all I know is that you have had a long history with Rolls-Royce and Bentley, and you have gone through it being a business and it being your hobby. And at the moment, it's your hobby, correct?
Thankfully, I'm retired, so it's back to a hobby. Couldn't make it in the business, so I had to go back to a hobby,
And yeah, you're going to give us a tour, which I'm
Sure.
excited about, because it's all about the cars, really. Let's be frank. It's not about us.
Yeah, that's true. Cars and airplanes, although there's not many airplanes here today, particularly the Rolls-Royce powered ones that I used to fly. Those were, that was quite a rush. The Mustang with the Merlin engine. I mean, Rolls-Royce really knew how to build an engine, and it was that was a real thrill for me to grow up working on the Rolls-Royces with my dad. And we had a V12 Phantom 3 when I was young, and then years later to be able to fly the P-51 with the Rolls-Royce engine. And for me, it was kind of like full circle. And thankfully, my father lived long enough to see that, and was really cool. He was a B-29 bomber pilot in World War II in Japan. And so it was a lot of fun. And he's the one that really got me started in Rolls-Royce and Bentleys. He bought from Schmidt out in St. Louis in, I think, 1969 or 70, a S1 Continental left-hand drive Park Ward convertible. And man, I wish I had that today.
And you started really young, didn't you?
Yes, I was, when Pop bought that car, I remember flying, because we always flew in little airplanes after he came back from the war. That's how I became a pilot and started flying as well. So, Pop taught me everything I need to know about spending lots of money on expensive things: Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Ferrari, and aircraft. Unfortunately, he didn't help me too much on earning money. So that was sort of a problem for me, but I've done okay, I guess. But yeah, I was about 12, I think, when he bought that first Bentley. And I remember when it came home, he had gotten it for a gift from my mother. And beautiful car, silver. I remember it was silver over Brewster green, with that beautiful green leather interior. And I was 12, and I remember the Russian rally clock that was in the glove box, which is actually a Russian aircraft clock, is what it really is. And I've been trying to find one of those for several years now. I haven't been able to. Well, I found one, but they wanted silly money for it. But so that's where it all started. I mean, and it went on from there. And then I was in high school, and he acquired a 1936 Phantom 3, and I came home from school every day and worked on that car with him in the garage. That was before we started any businesses. And then my best friend to this very day, who we see each other constantly, he lives in Austin, Texas. We're both owners. We own numerous Rolls and Bentleys together. And to this very day, we still work on cars together throughout the year. And so that started a lifelong friendship with Bryce. And great guy. And then it just grew from there. And next thing I know, he's going to England and buying 10 or 15 clouds at a time and bringing them home, and parked them all in the front driveway and on the street, and everybody thought we were crazy. That was in the middle 70s. And so then I had to help him start working on them. So we had to change the oil and had to learn how to fix the brakes. And, of course, in 1975, most of the clouds they weren't even 10 years old yet. So they were still in pretty good shape, but they required, routine maintenance. Uh-huh. And then it just grew into a business, and we started a couple companies, and on and on and on. And I mean, it just went wild after that. So, but,
So how many have you got there with you at the moment? Should we go and take a look?
Oh yeah, we'll go look around.
Okay,
I don't know. There's 6 or 8 here. So this is a view out of my office window upstairs. I don't know whether you can see anything very well or not. And there's my wife's Sinclair sign is in the way. But there's a bunch of cars down there. We'll walk down there and go look around. So,
and you built this yourself, I hear.
We built all of it ourselves over the years, and when I retired, this is our pilot lounge, and we still do a lot of flying. Oh, we got a better view this way. I built a kitchen for my wife, so she comes out and hangs out, and So let's see. We've got, I don't know how many is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 of them here right now. So
And the aircraft at the front.
oh, that's a little. That's the last one I have at the moment. All the World War II aircraft are gone now. You know, after I turned 60, I thought, I don't really need to be flying those things. I lived through a lot of craziness. This is a 1929 Moonbeam Crosley built in Cincinnati, Ohio. This picture was taken in 1971, and I'm in the front cockpit, but you can't see.
And how,
So,
oh no, I can't ask you how old you were then. Sorry.
yeah, I don't know. I can't remember, but I remember my mother didn't like the fact that my father was taking us flying in this old crate, she used to call it. But this is our shop, our main shop, and we just do all of our work in here. This is a 64 coupe that Jaguar that we're doing the finishing touches on. Hopefully it'll be done in a couple of months. It really doesn't look like it's totally done, but it really almost is.
I was going to say a couple of months. Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's basically done. All we have to do is finish up the interior and mount the engine, and all the components are complete, and so that needs to get done before we get into the next one. And then we've got all the normal. Every shop has to have a popcorn machine, soda fountains, Coke machines, all that. All stuff we restored here. We do all of our own work, but this is this one right here is the one we're really concentrating on right now. This is a 63 left-hand drive Cloud 3 standard steel. This car was bought new by Marge Schott. Do you know who that is?
I do not. I'm so ignorant. Please.
Oh no, well, no, I wouldn't expect you would. If anybody's a baseball fan, they will know she owned the Cincinnati Reds in the 70s and 80s. And this car she bought new in Palm Beach. It has 21,000 miles on it. And the thing that's so unusual about this car is there is not, and I mean not one single dent or speck of rust anywhere in this automobile.
Wow.
Which is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've owned a lot of these cars, and I don't know that I've ever had one that I could say, honestly, is utterly rust and rot free. Crazy. And the interior is completely original. We're not going to do anything to the interior other than clean it up. This isn't going to show up very well, but it has that mulberry red interior, a lot of patina, which I like. I don't redo it. I like it that way. A lot of people don't, but I like it. Rod Sala and I are one of the reasons we became great friends is because in our earlier days, we had all these discussions about interiors of these cars, and we both like them original. I mean, I've seen a lot of them that were beautifully redone, but they're just not like they are when they're original. So that's pretty hideous, but give us a couple of months and it'll be all back and beautiful and ready to go.
What color is she going to be?
I don't know anything other than white, which is what it was, and that's the reason I stripped it. But the paint was bad anyway. The paint was horrible.
Okay.
But it was white, and it's just I'm sorry, they are ugly and white. I know they make white. Some people love them, some people hate them.
And David, how many miles are you going to put on that car once you finish?
None. I'm going to sell this car. I'm not going to drive it.
Oh, you're not even going to go around the block?
Oh, I'll probably do that. Yeah, might take my wife to dinner one night but it's a Rolls. And here's the other reason I'm not going to keep it. It's left-hand drive.
Okay.
I'm a right-hand drive guy. So this car is very interesting. This is an S3, which of course I already told you I'm an S3 nut. And this is the very last S3 ever manufactured. This is B40LJP. And I've had, you know who David Basoli, David Basoli.
I do.
David did the historical research for me, and Ruben Verdes also did the same thing. And I bought this car out of Maryland, and the gentleman that I bought it from, well, actually, I bought it by way of Going. I've done quite a bit of business with those guys. And whenever they come up with something like this, they usually call me. So I bought this car really, I don't think it ever really hit the market.
How many miles on that one?
This car has a little more mileage on it. I'd have to get in here and look and see. I can't remember. I can't remember all these mileages. This one it's showing 21,000, but I'm pretty sure that's 121,000. I don't believe this is a 21,000 mile car. I'm quite sure that's 120,000 miles. But anyway, we got it out of Maryland, or it came out of Maryland, and the fellow that I talked to, he was still alive when I last spoke to him a couple of years ago. He was very poor health, but I did speak with him, and he bought the car in 1972 or 3 from, and I have all this upstairs, and I wish I'd have written it down. But anyway, to make a long story short, I think I'm the 3rd owner of this car. We haven't really done much research on it. Rod Sala did the leather and the seats for me inside. They're beautiful. And I couldn't make up my mind on what to do with it. It was a left-hand drive car. I loved mine, as I told you before. So I thought, well, I'll sell mine and keep this one. And anyway, I changed my mind. So we're not doing that. So I have a partner in this car now. I took a partner in it who's a guy that I sold another one of my Continentals to. And our plan now is that we've decided that it really is a special car. Richard Gorham said it best. I asked him, what do you think I ought to do with it? And he says, well, David, you know, they only made one of the last. typical Richard Gorham remarks. So I thought, okay. So our plan is to, we're going to do a full-blown frame restoration on this car. And we're going to document it. And then afterwards, in a couple of years, hopefully it'll be done. And we're going to tour it around to some of the shows. And then I don't know what after that, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I've never done.
I might see it myself at maybe the RROC meet in 2021.
Oh yeah, I don't know where it's going to be. I'm not sure we're going to make the one in Gettysburg at this point. I was really hoping we would.
Still hoping.
Yeah, I am too. But this is so we've decided we're going to, this is going to be fun. I've never taken a body off of one of these cars before. I never really thought that it was worth doing that. My father always cautioned me about over restoring these cars. I drive all of my cars. I use them. I drive them in the rain. I drive them in the snow. I don't drive them when there's salt. So I don't do that much anymore, but these are not hanger queens. I drive them and use them.
And what's your daily driver? What do you, or do you switch around?
Oh, I switch around, but this is one, this is a 1970 Silver Shadow 2-door coupe. And beautiful car. We're the 3rd owner of this car. We have records on this back to day 1. And I'm sorry, the lighting in here is not very good today.
There you go.
This car has about 81,000 miles on it. I had to build an engine for this car because the previous owner burned it up. They didn't know what they were doing and they trashed it. So I built a new engine. It's got a lot of your parts in it.
Thank you. Thanks for the plug.
got a lot of your parts in it, as a matter of fact, but all from Greg. I pretty much exclusively buy everything from Greg.
We love Greg.
Greg and I have known each other since we were children.
We're hoping to get Greg on one of these.
I told him the other day, I said, you need to talk to her. He said he would do it. He'll do it.
He's got a wonderful premises.
He's the opposite from our other friends. He's camera shy. He doesn't like it too much, but he's great at it. Well, who you really need to get on there is Mark.
I know. I was going to say, as long as we can have Mark alongside Greg, we'll be fine.
Mark is a lot of fun. Every time we go up there and hang out, we go to Mark's house and hang out with he and his wife. And my little boy loves Mark because he's a antique firearms enthusiast. And they just go off, and I see him a couple hours later. But I have that one. And then this is my S3 that's in for just routine service. And this car I've had for, I don't know, 10 years. And I absolutely love it. I mean, this car came from Frank Dale, and it's all original on the interior. We did replace the carpeting, but the rest of it's pretty much original. It's 130,000 miles, give or take. And it's just a beautiful car. I just love it. We've been, slowly redoing it over the years because I drive it all the time. This car we drive cross country. We've been everywhere in this thing up and down the East Coast. Got a lot of highway miles on it. And it's one of those deals, when it's your own car, you always find all the best components of everything to put on your keeper. So every piece of chrome, every little tiny thing. I bought a car a few years ago and opened up the trunk and was shocked to find one of these. And I had never seen one before, but I instantly knew what it was. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. So I opened up the trunk of this car that I bought, and I found that.
Oh, hold it up a little bit. A block.
Yes. Can you guess what it is?
Well, I mean, I would have thought that was a door wedge. Tell me what it is.
Well, you're close. It's a wheel chock. Rolls-Royce supplied these
Oh,
wrapped up in brown paper as a
wow.
wheel chock when you bought the car new, along with the other thing that everybody goes crazy trying to find is the original boot straps.
Oh, yeah.
And
Wow.
out of the same car, I found this wrapped up in paper. Completely original bootstrap that had never been out of
It's
the
like an
paper.
extra gift.
Yeah, and the Silver Cloud Society reproduced those. Larry DeRocher, who did a fantastic job a few years ago, and they were quite expensive, even to get them done.
Yeah.
But they were beautiful. And then to come across an original one, I was like, wow. And then to make matters even funnier, I bought another car a little bit later, and I found another one. It wasn't in as good a shape, but I used it to make parts out of. And then the other thing for this car that I'm doing is I did find an original Continental Touring kit.
Uh-huh.
Bad news is
Right.
there's nothing in it.
Oh.
It's
So tell
empty.
me, so tell me, David, is there one car you've had your whole time as an enthusiast? Is there one long-standing favorite, or have you?
There is.
Yeah.
There is, and sadly, it's not here. Well, I've done
Tell me
something
about
wrong.
it.
I'll fix it later. The car that I've owned for 39 years is a 1967 Bentley two-door coupe, CBH 2992, and I bought it from John Grant, who brought it over from England in 1980. He was a coal executive here in Kentucky. We're famous for coal, at least we used to be. And he was a coal executive from England, came here, and he brought this car with him. And at that time, I was operating a company called European Motors, and we specialized in European cars, mostly Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and Jaguar. And he brought this car to me for service. And then one day he came in and he says, "Hey, David, I'm getting ready to retire and go back to England, and I'm not going to take the car back," which I thought was insane. And he said, "Do you know anybody that might be interested in it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'll certainly be happy to look for you." And I asked him, I said, "Do you have any idea what you'd like for it?" I have no idea what it was. I can't remember. It's too long ago. And he told me, and I got my checkbook out and I wrote him a check on the spot. I said, "I would absolutely be proud to have this car," and I've had it ever since.
And what's her name? Do you name your cars?
No, I don't do that. I've never done that. I'm one of those, no, I never did. I don't name any of them, but it's bright fire engine red with the most beautiful black interior. And I bought the car because of the woodwork. It had absolutely the most gorgeous woodwork of any Rolls I've ever seen. And but it was a not a very attractive car when I bought it. It was a dull, and as you probably noticed, I like silver because I've got 3 or 4 silver cars. But it wasn't a very pretty color, and the paint wasn't very good, and it had a vinyl roof on it, which I didn't care for. So I was a firefighter and paramedic at the time. I was a flight nurse. And my dad said, "Why don't you paint it red? You're a fireman. Have a red car. Have a red Bentley." My mother, I thought she was going to have a stroke. "You can't be driving around in a bright red Rolls Royce." "It's a Bentley, Mother. It's not a Rolls." "Doesn't matter." And it was quite the ordeal. So we did. We painted that car. It is the most flaming fire engine red. We did that in 1984 or 5. And my business partner, Bryce, I mentioned earlier, he and I have owned that car together ever since. And it's here in Lexington. Unfortunately, it's downtown at a big warehouse for other cars, because in the wintertime, a bunch of cars come in here and I ran out of room. So it's unfortunate. I thought about that earlier today. Oh, darn.
That's
The
okay.
Redbird's not here. So.
If you
I'll send you a couple of pictures. It's a lot of fun. And that car also has been everywhere. And it's just been to Texas. It stayed in Texas with Bryce for 8 or 9 years, and it's back here. So yeah, that's the one I've had the longest. And so, the S3 I would never sell, but the red car, obviously, that we didn't even talk about that. So it's not even a possibility. This is another rare car. This is a 1959 Bentley S1 long wheelbase with division. They built 9 of these,
right,
and this one's number 2. And
rare cars in there, haven't you?
This car came out of New Jersey, and the interior in this car is completely original, except for the woodwork. It was redone. When I bought the car was in a million pieces. So we've put all the interior back together. It's completely finished. Well, I'm not doing very good here. Beautiful, absolutely stunning left-hand drive long wheelbase car. Body's a little rough. The engine was apart for reasons we have no idea. I can't find any reason why the engine was apart. But when we bought the car, there were no pistons, no connecting rods. Is this a gull wing car? This might have been a gull wing car also. I think maybe they got this one for me. So we now have had made all the pistons. Greg found me a set of connecting rods. We have all the parts, and we are ready to assemble the engine, get it back together, get it running and driving, and then we've got to decide what to do. I just absolutely love the long wheelbase with division. My dad had a bunch of these when I was a kid. They were all Rolls's, no Bentleys though. I never saw a Bentley long wheelbase with division until I saw this one.
So what makes you
Not
decide,
an S1.
what's the deciding factor in whether you keep or sell a car?
Besides my wife?
Yeah.
Well, but besides my wife and my son, when that car came on Passport, or I guess Passport brought this car. When this car came, it was the most hysterical thing in the world. They unloaded it at my house, which is a mile and a half from here, because we're in a secured area here at the airport, and it's a real hassle getting big tractor trailers in here. So they just dump them at my house, and then I just tow them or drag them over if they don't run. My son, this was in the fall of, I don't know, a year or two ago. They're there unloading this car, and the school bus pulls up and stops right in front of our house. My son gets off the bus. All the kids are on the bus. And he comes over and he looks at me and he goes, "Dad, really? Another old rotted out Bentley?" Everybody in the
So
bus.
embarrassing, huh?
Oh my gosh, I could have crawled underneath a rock. I'm like, oh my gosh, Barron, what is your deal? So anyway, he's, between my wife and son, I don't know, if it's something unique, I'm into unique cars now. I've had so many of the others, which brings me to this one. This is a 1963 S3 Bentley Continental two-door Chinese coupe, obviously. And they built, I believe, 72 of these. And I've had 2 of them here in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. I bought one from the guys in California, I guess at Beverly Hills. They had one out there. And Santos went and looked at it for me, and I brought it home. And it was a neat running, driving car. But the only problem with that car was the interior was completely trashed. I mean, there was just nothing left of the seats. But I still wanted it because it was so rare. It was the only one I'd seen for sale for quite some time. Mm-hmm. So I brought it home, did the brakes, got it running, driving, having a great time with it. And then this car popped up in Florida, and I think some of the people may have seen this car before. Some guys in Jacksonville had this car. And the story behind this car is a dentist in Jacksonville bought this car in England in 1975, along with a couple other cars, brought it back to Jacksonville, promptly completely disassembled it, including the engine. The engine's out of this car. It's in a million pieces. The car's been stripped. And then he stuck it in a storage room, and it stayed there until I acquired it.
Wow.
I mean, what were they thinking? I mean, I don't, I don't know. Anyway, so then you're going to ask, well, I have one that's running and driving. Why in the world would I buy one that's in a billion pieces?
Yeah.
The reason I bought this car was because of the interior, completely original.
Right.
So the interior of this car, the seats, are completely original. And I thought, wow, you can't do this. You just can't do it. And so I sold the other car, bought this one, and this is going to be my last really big restoration. I'm hoping I've been collecting parts. Again, I got a lot of intro car parts for the engine and suspension and rear end in this car. So we've been just stockpiling all the parts and components that we know that we're going to need. Uh-huh. And we're going to do a complete frame off on this one. This is going to be kind of wrapping it up for me because, I'm just lots of reasons. It's just time for me not to be doing that kind of work anymore. And it's hard to get people to do work. You can't, I don't even go into all that chrome paint. You just can't get anybody to work anymore. It's just terrible. My Jag was in the shop for 2 or 3 years in the body shop alone before I got it back. That one coupe up in the shop up there was 2.5 years to get out of the body shop. Well, hell, I'll be dead. I can't keep doing that, guys. I need it done in a few months,
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. I just love this. The fellow that designed this car was brilliant. And I can't wait to get into that. So we're going to finish up these other two and get them out of here. And then this is going to be my last big hurrah. And the other thing, too, would be nice to where I could maybe just work on one at a time instead of 4 or 5. You know?
Well, listen, David, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was some tour.
Well, it keeps us busy. My wife says it keeps me out of trouble. And I'm not flying airplanes that are trying to kill me every minute, all the time anymore. So she figures it's a little safer. So, well, I hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Absolutely. Well, maybe in June at Gettysburg, but definitely, if not this year, then definitely in 2021. Bye, David.
Bye-bye.